The Ledge is a 2022 mystery thriller movie that keeps the audience on their feet at all times. Here, a friend witnesses a murder in the middle of nowhere. The movie flows around mountains and enhances its beauty. In comes two best friends, Kelly and Sophie, who are all ready to start their rock climbing journey. Kelly is seen packing her bags and getting ready for their trekking at the cabin they had chosen in the region, whereas Sophie was recording moments with Kelly on her camera. Both were excited about their trip but were startled when they heard a car horn loudly. Walking to the door to see who it was, they saw a group of 4 men. One of the friends, Josh, while looking around the surroundings and taking in the view, caught Sophie's eye. They stared at each other but was broken as Kelly called her inside. Curious and flirty as he was, Josh knocked on the girl's door. Sophie opened it and was met by the handsome hunk she saw outside. Josh invited the girls to a party the friends were having, but they declined the offer. Disappointed, Josh returns back to his friends. The group of friends seems to have a good relationship with elements thrown under the rug. Sophie wished to go to the party whereas Kelly wished to go out and enjoy the view, but gives up for her friend's happiness and decides to hang out with the men. At night, they gather around the fireplace and start to share things about themselves. Sophie is having a time of her life, sharing things whereas Kelly comes out secretive and introverted. While talking, they learn that the girls were going to climb 10,000 feet of mountain Antilao, which is the highest mountain in the Dolomites northeastern Italy, and the men were just climbing the mountains for the scenic beauty. When Kelly decides to call it a day and turns to leave, Josh grabs her hand that creeps Kelly out. In the room, Kelly watches videos of her and Luca and gets teary thinking of the amazing moments they had together. Meanwhile, Josh suggests that he would also climb the mountain to the top with the girls but was made fun of by Sophie. Offended but quiet, the duo starts to make out. Reynolds, Zach, and Taylor were disgusted by this as he was engaged to a woman named Amy. They tried to stop him but he did not listen. When Sophie decides to take a leak in the woods, Josh follows and tries to force himself on her for making fun of him outside in front of his friends. Struggling, she scratches his face. The 3 men hear Sophie's call for help and immediately save her from their friend. Scared, she runs away. The men try to follow Sophie behind in order to reason with her. All the time Kelly was unaware of the happenings. When she was caught, Josh punched her in the face, leading to her falling off the ledge. Hearing the commotion, Kelly wakes up and reaches the campfire place only to find no one there. Reynolds, one of the friends, suggests calling 911 and helping her, but Josh angrily snatched the phone from his hand and prevented him from calling the police. Kelly follows the voice of the men bickering, as it has happened in the past, but Josh justifies himself by saying it was a long time ago since the last incident. They did not get caught last time and were adamant about not getting caught this time too. In order to make it look like an accident, Josh plans to hit her head with the stone but was stopped by Reynolds again. Josh was the first to hit her with the rock, followed by Zach. Looking at the site in front of him, Reynolds pukes his guts out. The men leave no evidence behind, and while they were coming up with a backstory, they heard a voice. It was Kelly, with a camera shooting the whole incident in front of her. All 4 men start to chase her but they soon lose her in the woods. Running away, she comes face to face with Reynolds but he decides to pretend he didn't see her and immediately went to her cabin and packed her bag. Knowing what Reynolds is capable of, Josh follows her to the cabin to realize she plans to climb the rock in order to escape with the gear on her back, hoping the men are inexperienced. But Taylor starts to follow her while the other 3 remain down, hoping for her to get caught. Since she has climbed the mountain before, she knew what to do and that helped her to get a head start. Since they did not see this coming, Taylor was unprepared. He almost grabbed her the first time, resulting in her camera falling. The second time, ropes fell off her bag which startled Taylor, resulting in him falling down, but was saved as he successfully grabbed onto a rock below. Kelly stepped a few rocks down, grabbed the camera, placed it in her bag, and began her journey to the top. Taylor fell off the rocks, plummeting when Kelly kicked him, resulting in a broken leg and a furious Josh. The friends brought Taylor to the cabin in order to help him find a way out of his misery. Josh gave him a good amount of medicines mixed with alcohol and left him alone in the cabin to follow and catch Kelly. Thinking Kelly was safe, she decided to take a break and quench her thirst, coming to terms with the reality. She got all things ready that were necessary and started her climb again. Meanwhile, the men reached back to the location where Taylor fell. Josh hoped she freezes onto the top, but to be safe, he planned to climb to the shoulder in order to get a heads up. He finds a way to go back to Taylor, only to confirm his death. This happened because the pills Josh gave to Taylor were not to end his misery, it was to end his life. Meanwhile, Reynolds tries to convince Zach into calling 911 and handing Josh to the police, but Zach, being a true friend, declines. While climbing, Kelly removes the map of the mountain that she had in order to change her way and distract the men. The winds did not help her at all, and to add to it, a snake passed through her way, almost killing her. An adamant Josh follows Kelly. There, he sees her bottle falling down and mocks her for the lack of water. He also gets a hold of her phone and starts to send messages to himself in order to create a real story that could save him. His friends were disgusted. Kelly does not lose hope and starts changing her sides the way she learned from Luca. There, she finds a tent on the rock face and decides to call it a night. but not before knowing that the rock above her was where the men planned to stay for the night. Josh tries to condition with Kelly, asking for the camera instead of her life, but she sends an inappropriate message instead of it, resulting in Josh being annoyed. At night, Reynolds tries to persuade Zach's decision yet again, but Zach, adamant as he was, starts to point out the crime they all had done in the past for Taylor and Zach's brother and how he was involved in it too. When Josh overhears their conversation, he warns them to stick to the plan. After a long day of rock climbing, Kelly applies band-aids on her injured fingers. Next, he hooks the tent, which results in her dangling hundreds of feet above the ground. In the tent, all alone and hungry, all Kelly would think of was Luca. While going through Kelly's phone, they learn that Luca was killed on the same mountain by falling off of it exactly a year ago, and that Kelly was climbing the same rock in memory of him. Mocking her, he takes a leak on her tent. Disgusted yet compelled, she tries to sleep. Late at night, when Kelly was asleep in her tent, she started to feel her tent move. Waking up in a jolt, she realizes it was Josh and his friends trying to break her tent by throwing things at it, resulting in her falling off. Hurriedly, she grabs onto the rock under the tent that saves her. She goes inside the tent to prevent herself from freezing. Failure was not a good color for Josh, and so he decides to send Zach to get inside the tent and get the camera from her. He successfully cuts his way into the tent, but Kelly manages to injure him, making him retreat, and Kelly clings to his leg, hoping to not fall off. Realizing this, Zach asks his friends to pull him up so that they could get a hold of Kelly as well as the camera and leave no evidence behind. Josh gets a hold of her, but she successfully gets out of his hold, ensuing in her getting a hold of the tent and her keychain in Josh's hands. He hopes for success, but when Zach tells him about his failure to grab the camera, Josh gets enraged. The tent flew away, leaving Kelly on the rock, stranded. Reynolds suggested they should leave at dawn, as Kelly does not have a way out of this and she will fall off the rock, trying or not. Zach agrees with it, and so does Josh. He also said he would call Amy for help. When Josh was asleep, a scared Zach requests Reynolds to get him off the mountain before he bleeds to death. He also informs him about the fact that Taylor was dead and it was Josh who killed him when he went back to the cabin to get his gloves. Adding, he says that Josh had not spoken to Amy in over 6 months, as Amy had caught him cheating on her, resulting in no wedding bells for them. Reynolds was disturbed after hearing all this, but came back into his senses when he found a way to call for help. Josh had a watch that beamed a signal that they could use to call for help. When he was about to reach for his watch, Josh woke up and was on the verge of killing him, but leaves and threatens both of them. He also confesses about cheating on Zach's girlfriend. Heartbroken, but helpless, he stays quiet. When Reynolds was asleep and Zach was taking a leak, Josh bangs Zach's head with a hammer and throws him off the ledge. When Reynolds wakes up and finds Zach missing, he questions Josh, but Josh being Josh, he lies, saying he went away as he couldn't handle the cold. He also lied, saying he called Amy for help. Reynolds decides to go down through a rope and plead for the camera, but learns that Josh killed Zach too. Ignoring it, he threatens her to give the camera, else he had to forcefully take it from her. Scared, she gives him the camera and fake screams, just like Reynolds said, to pretend as if he pushed her off the rock. When he came back up, Josh was ecstatic to see the camera, only to realize it missed the memory card. At the same time, Reynolds calls Taylor for help, but realizes Josh had his phone. All the things said to him by Zach and Kelly turned out to be true, and he started to attack Josh, only to be lit on fire, hanging off the ledge, and then falling. She recalls how Luca died while proposing to her on the mountain and decides to jump off the rock too, only to be stopped by Luca's voice in her head. Motivated than ever, she starts to climb away from the rock to grab the knife on it and return back, indicating she would not back off without a fight. Josh is deadlier than ever. He gets the ropes around him and comes face to face with Kelly, demanding her to give the card. She declines and they start to fight, knowing it is challenging. Kelly tells him that she hid the card in the hole next to the rock she was standing on. Trusting her, he goes ahead to grab it, but was bitten by the snake. Infuriated, he starts to punch and strangle her, but she stabs him again and again and cuts his rope, resulting in him hanging off the cliff. Pleading for help, Kelly slowly bends down, grabs her necklace that was around his neck, presses the button on his watch, and stands on his hand, which makes him lose his grip and eventually fall. She climbs onto the peak of the mountain in the morning, standing next to a cross, stronger than ever.